On the bright, shimmering world of Iridian Prime, the alien capital city floated among the clouds, high above the crystalline oceans. The city was alive with colors, sounds, and alien shapes unlike anything on Earth. Towering spires of glowing metal reflected the twin suns, and citizens of all forms walked, floated, and hovered in a harmonious rhythm. At the heart of this vibrant world stood the royal palace, a structure of immense beauty, adorned with luminous crystals that changed color with the mood of the planet. Inside the palace, Queen Lyra stood before a large window watching the sunrise over the horizon. She was an extraordinary being, tall, with luminous violet skin that shimmered faintly in the light. Her eyes, a deep golden hue, reflected wisdom and strength beyond her years. She ruled Iridian Prime with intelligence and fairness, guided by both tradition and innovation. Yet despite her power, there was a quiet longing in her heart. She had seen countless dignitaries, generals, and scholars, but none had touched her soul. She wanted a companion who was humble, kind, and sincere, not someone obsessed with status or power. Her advisors often warned her. "Your Majesty," they said, "the galaxy is dangerous. Humans are unpredictable. They are weak compared to our kind. Do not trust one with your heart." Lyra had listened politely but had always smiled. She knew that true strength could not be measured by muscle or magic alone. Sometimes the quietest hearts hid the deepest power. And then came Callan. He was a human diplomat sent from Earth to Iridian Prime to discuss trade, culture, and interstellar knowledge exchange. Humans, though primitive by some alien standards, had a reputation for creativity and adaptability. Callan, however, was unlike any human she had met before. He was modest, polite, and soft-spoken, with eyes that seemed to understand more than he let on. His brown hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his gentle smile carried an honesty that made those around him feel at ease. From the first meeting, Lyra felt a curious connection. Callan asked thoughtful questions, listened more than he spoke, and never tried to impress with flashy words or gestures. Where many humans boasted of their accomplishments, he spoke simply of learning, curiosity, and helping others. Lyra was intrigued. She found herself looking forward to each discussion, each shared meal, each quiet walk through the palace gardens. Their relationship grew slowly. They discussed philosophy, art, history, and even mundane matters like the weather or the taste of alien fruits. Callan seemed fascinated by the simplest things, yet he also understood complex topics with clarity. Lyra, who had grown accustomed to people who either flattered or feared her, found his honesty refreshing. One evening, under the twin moons of Iridian Prime, Callan and Lyra walked through a garden where bioluminescent flowers glowed softly, illuminating their path. "Your Majesty," Callan said quietly, "I have never met someone like you. You see the world in ways I could never imagine. It is beautiful." Lyra looked at him, a gentle smile on her lips. "And you humans see beauty in the smallest things. That is rare in my experience." It was in moments like these that Lyra realized she had found not just a friend, but a kindred spirit. She felt a warmth in her chest she had never felt before. Months passed. The court noticed the closeness between the queen and the human diplomat. Many whispered, some in admiration, others in concern. Lyra's advisors tried to intervene subtly, cautioning her about getting too close to a human. But Lyra's mind was made up. She had seen the truth of Callan's character. Humility, kindness, and intelligence, these were the qualities she valued above all. Finally, one quiet evening, Lyra invited Callan to the palace hall, where the walls glimmered with shifting colors. She held out her hand. "Callan," she said, her voice calm but steady, "would you walk with me through life not as a guest or a diplomat, but as my companion?" Callan's eyes widened slightly, but then he smiled. "Your Majesty, I would be honored beyond words." And so their marriage began, not with grand displays of power, but with simplicity, trust, and understanding. It was a union of two souls, different in form but united in spirit. The citizens of Iridian Prime celebrated, though many were curious about this human who had captured the queen's heart. Life settled into a peaceful rhythm. Callan helped with daily affairs, learning the nuances of palace life while quietly observing the world around him. He spent time with the palace staff, listening to their stories, helping solve problems, and showing genuine interest in their lives. His humility won over even the most skeptical of advisors. Lyra often watched him from afar, marveling at how someone so unassuming could have such a quiet strength. She began to understand that true power was not always visible. Some of the strongest beings hid their abilities behind simplicity and kindness, and perhaps that was the most difficult power to master of all. Yet the galaxy beyond Iridian Prime was never truly calm. Rival factions and neighboring planets observed the Queen and her new husband with curiosity and suspicion. They underestimated Callan, assuming that he was a mere human with no influence or strength. They saw only what he allowed them to see, a quiet, humble man who spoke little and moved with modesty. In truth, Callan's calm demeanor masked skills and knowledge that went far beyond ordinary human capability. He had trained for many years in Earth's specialized programs that combined diplomacy, strategic thinking, and disciplined physical training. He chose to hide these skills not out of fear, but out of respect for Lyra and her world. He did not need to prove himself with strength or violence. He believed in subtlety, observation, and wisdom. The first weeks of their married life were filled with small joys. Lyra introduced Callan to her favorite gardens, sharing stories of her childhood and lessons learned as a queen. Callan, in turn, shared tales of Earth, of human resilience, creativity, and unity in the face of challenges. They laughed together, debated together, and sometimes simply enjoyed silence together, feeling a connection that words could not fully describe. But even in these peaceful moments, Lyra could not ignore a faint sense of unease. Reports from palace scouts occasionally mentioned unusual movements near the borders, and some diplomats behaved unpredictably. Though these events seemed minor, they hinted at larger tensions in the galaxy. Lyra, who was used to handling crises, knew that calm days often preceded storms, yet she did not worry about Callan. He seemed to sense danger without showing alarm, always observing, always learning. His quiet confidence gave her reassurance, though she had no idea of the depth of his abilities. She believed in him, trusted him, and allowed herself to feel joy, a dangerous but irresistible luxury for a queen. One evening, while watching the twin moons rise over the city, Lyra reflected on their journey so far. She realized that marriage at its best was not about power or wealth, but about understanding, respect, and shared values. In Callan, she had found someone who matched her in thought, yet humbled her with his gentle presence. She felt certain that together, they could face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at them. Little did she know, the true test of Callan's nature and of her own understanding was waiting just beyond the horizon. The galaxy underestimated humans, and so did she, but that would soon change. For now, Iridian Prime slept under the soft glow of its twin moons, unaware that history was quietly being rewritten by a queen who had married a humble man, and a man whose humility hid the extraordinary. And thus, their story began, not with fanfare or battle, but with trust, respect, and the quiet power of two beings discovering the strength of one another. The morning sun rose slowly over Iridian Prime, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. In the palace, Queen Lyra moved through her daily routine with calm efficiency, though a quiet tension lingered in her mind. The first weeks of marriage with Callan had been peaceful, almost blissful, but Lyra, who had ruled a kingdom and studied the movements of the galaxy for years, knew that peace was often fragile. Callan, true to his humble nature, remained devoted to learning and observing. He spent hours in the palace library, studying the history of Iridian Prime, the alliances and rivalries of alien civilizations, and the culture and customs of the Queen's people. Yet he did not flaunt his knowledge. When asked for advice, he spoke carefully, always measured, never attempting to dominate discussions. His quiet presence calmed the staff and even the Queen herself, though she remained unaware of the full depth of his abilities. Even the palace staff began to notice subtle changes. Callan helped with simple chores, watering the gardens, arranging documents, and listening patiently to servants' concerns. Where others would dismiss minor issues, he addressed them thoughtfully. Guards found themselves inspired by his demeanor. Diplomats and ambassadors, initially skeptical of a human's presence in the palace, were surprised by his wisdom and tact. Despite the calm, Lyra could not ignore signs of tension at the palace gates. A small group of rogue merchants had tried to gain access, claiming urgent messages from neighboring planets. Though the guards handled the situation without incident, the timing felt suspicious. Lyra consulted her advisors. "Your Majesty," said Counselor Veylan, a tall alien with silver-scaled skin, "we should be cautious. These incidents are isolated, yes, but they may indicate that factions beyond our borders are watching you closely. Perhaps the human's presence has drawn unwanted attention." Lyra nodded, her golden eyes thoughtful. "We cannot jump to fear," she replied, "but we must remain vigilant. Kalen is no ordinary diplomat. His understanding of strategy and behavior, we will need it soon." Callan, who had overheard part of the conversation, smiled faintly to himself. He knew the galaxy underestimated humans. They saw humans as small, fragile, and weak. But he had learned early in life that patience and observation often mattered more than brute strength. Days passed, and subtle signs of unrest continued to appear. Diplomats suddenly changed their tone during meetings, unusual shipments arrived without explanation, and guards reported strange movements at the outskirts of the palace. Lyra noticed, too, that her usual network of spies seemed to be sending incomplete or delayed reports. One evening, Lyra invited Callan to walk with her through the palace gardens. The bioluminescent flowers glowed gently, lighting their path with a soft, dreamlike radiance. "Something feels off," Lyra said quietly. "These incidents, they are small, but I sense a pattern. We may be walking toward something dangerous." Callan nodded slowly. "You are right, Your Majesty. The signs are subtle, but there is a rhythm to them. It is as if someone is testing the palace, probing for weaknesses." Lyra looked at him, her brow furrowed. "And what do you think we should do?" Callan paused, considering his words carefully. "We watch, we prepare, and we act only when necessary. Do not reveal fear or uncertainty. Show strength through calmness. That is often more powerful than any weapon." Lyra felt a flicker of admiration. There was wisdom in his words, but also something she could not yet see. A confidence that went beyond diplomacy. The following days brought further signs of unrest. A delegation from a neighboring planet arrived unexpectedly, requesting urgent discussions on trade disputes. Though their words seemed polite, their tone suggested hidden motives. Callan attended the meetings quietly, observing every gesture, every pause, every nuance of conversation. He asked questions that seemed simple but were strategically profound, uncovering truths hidden behind layers of diplomacy. Lyra watched him silently during these sessions, noting how effortlessly he balanced humility with insight. Where many humans would have argued, boasted, or attempted to dominate, Callan simply guided the conversation, allowing others to reveal their intentions on their own. She realized that his quiet demeanor was not weakness. It was power carefully restrained. Even outside the palace walls, tensions began to rise. Scouts reported unusual activity in the nearby forests, and messages from allied planets hinted at shifting loyalties. Some minor skirmishes had broken out along trade routes, though none reached the capital. Still, the pattern was clear. Forces in the galaxy were testing Iridian Prime, and perhaps the Queen herself. One afternoon, as Lyra practiced with her ceremonial staff in the training halls, she sensed a presence behind her. Callan appeared quietly, holding a small device that measured energy fluctuations. "I noticed unusual readings near the palace," he said calmly. "Something or someone has been attempting to interfere with your security systems. I have traced the anomalies, but we must be careful in confronting them." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "You mean there are spies within the palace?" Callan shook his head. "Not spies in the usual sense. These are subtle intrusions, designed to observe without being noticed. I suspect the intention is to learn about us before making a larger move. The question is why and by whom." Lyra frowned. "And you can stop them?" Callan's smile was faint, almost secretive. "We will see. Sometimes the greatest defense is not force but understanding. Patience will reveal the truth." That evening, Lyra sat alone in her chamber, reflecting on Callan's words. His calm confidence unsettled her but also reassured her. She had expected to marry a humble man, someone gentle and kind, but she began to sense that there was more to him than met the eye. His humility was deliberate, his patience measured, and his understanding of people extraordinary. As night fell, a minor incident finally tested the palace's vigilance. A courier from a neighboring planet attempted to bypass security, claiming urgent messages for the Queen. Guards intercepted him, but his credentials appeared authentic. Kalen quietly analyzed the documents, his eyes scanning for inconsistencies. Within moments, he identified a falsified seal and subtle discrepancies in language patterns that even the Queen's advisors had missed. "This is not a simple error," he said softly. "This courier was sent to observe, perhaps to distract us. The message itself is a ruse." Lyra felt a shiver of both fear and awe. Here was the man she had married, quiet and unassuming, yet capable of detecting threats invisible to even the most trained eyes of her council. She realized that her perception of him had been incomplete. She had seen only the surface of his humility. In the following days, Callan continued to demonstrate his subtle vigilance. He coordinated palace defenses discreetly, organized staff rotations to maximize security, and even advised Lyra on strategies for subtle diplomacy with rival planets. He never boasted or flaunted his knowledge. Instead, he worked quietly, allowing the palace to appear calm while secretly strengthening its foundations. Through it all, Lyra watched him with growing admiration. She had thought she had married a humble man, someone who would walk beside her in simple peace. Instead, she discovered a partner whose quiet strength, patience, and intelligence far exceeded her expectations. Yet the true test had not yet come. The galaxy beyond Iridian Prime was restless, and those who underestimated humans were about to discover that humility could hide extraordinary power. For now, the palace appeared peaceful. Citizens went about their daily routines, traders conducted their business, and the city of Iridian Prime shimmered under twin suns. Lyra and Callan shared quiet moments together, walking through glowing gardens, discussing histories, and enjoying simple meals. But beneath the surface, tension brewed, a storm that would soon reveal the full extent of Callan's abilities. And Lyra, despite all her wisdom and experience, realized she had much to learn about the man she had married. The humble diplomat was more than he seemed, and the galaxy was about to witness a side of humanity it had never seen before. The cracks in the calm were small, almost imperceptible, but they hinted at a coming challenge, a test that would require courage, wisdom, and strength. And when the time came, Lyra would see her husband in a light that would forever change her understanding of humans, humility, and true power. For now, she watched the twin moons rise over the palace side by side, a quiet reminder that even in a world of beauty and light, shadows could move unseen, and that true strength often lay hidden beneath calm surfaces. The morning sun had barely risen over Iridian Prime when an uneasy calm settled over the palace. The city below shimmered with activity, but inside the royal walls a quiet tension hung in the air. Queen Lyra had felt it earlier, a subtle vibration of unease that even the bustling life of the palace could not mask. She moved through the halls, her golden eyes scanning every detail, aware that not all threats arrived with obvious signs. Callan, as always, was calm. He had noticed the unusual energy readings that morning, small disturbances in the palace perimeter that others might have dismissed as minor anomalies. But he had learned long ago that minor disturbances often preceded major challenges. He moved silently through the palace corridors, observing, listening, calculating. His quiet presence reassured Lyra, yet she remained unaware of the depth of his preparation. It happened suddenly. A loud explosion echoed from the outer gates, followed by the sound of rushing footsteps and alien shouts. The palace alarms blared, signaling an intruder breach. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. The palace guards, though numerous and skilled, were momentarily overwhelmed by the surprise of the attack. Panic rippled through the staff. "Your Majesty, stay back," shouted one of the chief guards. But Lyra did not move. She knew the palace needed more than fear. It needed strategy and perhaps someone capable of more than the guards could offer. From the shadows, Callan stepped forward. His posture was calm, almost casual, as if he were simply walking into a garden rather than a battlefield. Yet every movement was precise, deliberate, and filled with intent. The intruders had assumed the palace was unprepared, but they had underestimated the human. The first wave of attackers entered the main hall, armed with advanced energy weapons. They were confident, aggressive, and fast. But Callan was faster. With a fluid motion, he intercepted the first intruder. Using a combination of human agility and calculated leverage, he disarmed the alien with a simple twist, sending the weapon clattering across the floor. The intruder froze, astonished by the speed and efficiency of the seemingly humble human. Lyra watched, stunned. Her husband moved with a confidence and skill that she had never witnessed before. Each action was precise, economical, and non-wasteful. He did not strike blindly. He controlled the situation, neutralizing threats with minimal effort yet maximum effect. The palace guards, inspired by Kaelin's example, rallied quickly. They coordinated their movements, guided subtly by Kaelin's strategic positioning. He did not give direct orders. Instead, his actions communicated silently, guiding the defenders like a conductor guiding an orchestra. Guards who had once doubted the human found themselves following his lead instinctively. The intruders advanced in formation, assuming they could overwhelm the palace by numbers alone. They had not accounted for strategy, observation, and intelligence combined with skill. Kaelin anticipated their moves, predicting attacks before they were launched. With each confrontation, he disarmed, incapacitated, or redirected attackers, ensuring no one was seriously harmed unless absolutely necessary. Queen Lyra felt a surge of awe and fear. The man she had married, the quiet, humble diplomat she had come to love, was a warrior of unparalleled skill. He moved with precision, but he also moved with care, showing no unnecessary violence. He was a protector, not a destroyer, and his calm presence held the room in balance even as chaos erupted around them. Amid the clash, Kaelin spotted the leader of the intruders, an alien in dark armor with a glowing visor. The leader seemed confident, issuing commands to his troops. Kaelin's eyes narrowed, analyzing the pattern of attacks. With a swift, fluid motion, he moved through the chaos, positioning himself between the leader and the queen. The intruder lunged with a weapon designed to cut through the strongest metals, but Kaelin anticipated it. With a combination of human agility and precise leverage, he redirected the strike, sending the weapon harmlessly aside and disarming the alien. The remaining intruders, seeing their leader incapacitated so effortlessly, faltered. Kaelin took advantage of the moment, guiding the guards in a coordinated effort that forced the attackers to retreat. Within minutes, the palace was secure. The intruders had underestimated the defenders, and most importantly, they had underestimated Kaelin. Lyra approached him cautiously, her eyes wide with astonishment. "Kaelin, what? How did you—" Kaelin smiled faintly, a calm expression that contrasted with the adrenaline-filled air around them. "Your Majesty, strength is not always visible," he said softly. "Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is patience, observation, and knowing exactly when to act." Lyra's mind raced. The human she had married was no ordinary diplomat. The humility, the quiet demeanor, the patience, these were not signs of weakness. They were the marks of someone trained to handle situations far beyond the ordinary, and she realized with both pride and awe that she had underestimated the man she loved. In the hours that followed, palace security was reinforced. The intruders left behind traces that indicated they were part of a larger faction, plotting against the queen. Kaelin quietly analyzed the evidence, noting subtle patterns and strategies that would have been invisible to most. He explained to Lyra calmly and clearly what had happened, what signs they had missed, and what to expect in the coming days. "What do you mean, more attacks?" Lyra asked, her voice steady but tinged with concern. "They were testing us," Kaelin replied. "Small incursions, subtle intrusions. They were observing our response. Now they know we are prepared, but we have also learned about them. The advantage is ours if we remain calm and strategic." Lyra nodded slowly. She realized that Kaelin's humility had been a shield, not a limitation. The galaxy saw only what he allowed them to see, a humble, quiet human. But in reality, he was a strategist, a warrior, and a protector. The very qualities she had admired in him, his patience, kindness, and humility, were also his greatest strengths. As evening fell, the palace settled into a tense calm. The staff repaired damages, reassured citizens, and reinforced defenses. Kaelin walked through the halls quietly, checking every detail, observing every movement. Lyra followed him, still amazed by the transformation she had witnessed. The man she had married, the one she thought was simple and unassuming, was capable of extraordinary feats. "Kaelin," she said softly, "all this time, I thought I knew you. But today I saw something else entirely. You are more than I ever imagined." Kaelin looked at her with a gentle smile. "I am still the same man you married, Your Majesty. I have simply revealed what was necessary. Humility is a choice, not a limitation. Strength can exist quietly without need for recognition." Lyra felt a deep respect, mingled with a renewed sense of love. The queen had sought a humble companion, and she had found not just humility but wisdom, courage, and strength beyond imagining. The experience had changed her understanding, not only of Callan but also of humanity. That night, as the twin moons rose over Iridian Prime, Lyra and Callan stood together on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. The stars stretched infinitely above them, silent witnesses to the events that had unfolded. "Do you think they will return?" Lyra asked, her voice calm but thoughtful. Callan's golden brown eyes reflected the moon's. "Perhaps, but we are ready. They underestimated us today, and that will not happen again. Humility can mask power, but it cannot hide determination, and we have determination in abundance." Lyra nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and anticipation. The first test had come, and Callan had passed with brilliance. She understood now that the universe often underestimated humans, seeing only their limitations rather than their potential. Her husband's quiet strength had been a revelation, and she realized that together they could face challenges that no one else could. The palace, once calm and serene, now held a sense of readiness. Guards moved with purpose, staff worked with renewed vigilance, and the queen and her human companion stood at the center of it all, united in purpose. The galaxy beyond Iridian Prime was vast, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. But for the first time, Lyra felt an unshakable confidence. With Callan by her side, they could confront any threat, overcome any challenge, and inspire those around them. The first test was over, but the story was only beginning. The galaxy had glimpsed the hidden power of a humble human, and Lyra knew that the real trials were yet to come. And as she looked at Callan, standing quietly beside her, she understood one profound truth. Sometimes, the greatest power lies not in weapons or armies, but in humility, intelligence, and courage, and the quiet strength to act when it matters most. The human she had married was no longer just a diplomat or a companion. He was a protector, a strategist, and a force the galaxy had not yet begun to understand. And Lyra, Queen of Iridian Prime, knew that with him at her side nothing could stand in their way. The calm after the first attack on the palace lasted only a few days. Queen Lyra and Callan worked closely to strengthen the defenses of Iridian Prime, but the tension in the city was palpable. Citizens whispered of the intruders. Diplomats spoke cautiously, and the palace staff remained vigilant. Yet beneath the surface, something more significant was unfolding. Callan's true nature was beginning to emerge, and the queen was about to see the human she married in a completely new light. It was late in the evening when Lyra invited Callan to walk with her along the palace terraces. The twin moons reflected in the crystalline canals below, casting long shadows across the gardens. Lyra had always loved the tranquility of this place, but tonight her thoughts were restless. "Callan," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I need to understand. Who are you, truly? You handled the attack. Your skills. They are unlike anything I have ever seen. Are humans capable of this naturally, or is there more I should know?" Callan paused, looking out over the city. The glow of the moons highlighted the lines of calm determination in his face. "Your Majesty," he said, "there is more to me than the humble man you have come to know. I have lived much of my life in preparation for situations like the one we faced. Humility is my choice, not my limitation." Lyra turned to him, curiosity and awe mixing in her golden eyes. "Preparation? What do you mean?" Callan took a deep breath. "I come from a line of humans trained for protection, diplomacy, and strategy. Our role is to study, to learn, and to act when necessary. Earth's history is full of conflicts and challenges. My family's purpose was to ensure peace when others could not. I have trained in observation, combat, and leadership, but I chose to come here quietly, to live humbly, and to honor you by remaining by your side without showing all I can do." The queen absorbed his words slowly. She had known humans were resourceful, but she had not expected this depth of preparation. "So, everything I thought I knew about you is only part of the story?" Callan smiled faintly. "Yes, Your Majesty. I wanted you to know the man, not the warrior. But the warrior is ready when needed. Humility does not mean weakness. It means choosing the right time to act." For the first time, Lyra felt a profound respect for her husband that went beyond admiration or affection. She had married someone extraordinary, someone who could face the galaxy's dangers with wisdom, strategy, and courage, yet remained modest and gentle in everyday life. The following days were filled with quiet preparation. Kalen coordinated palace defenses, trained guards subtly, and studied the political landscape of neighboring planets. He advised the Queen on subtle diplomacy, ensuring that Iridian Prime's allies remained loyal while potential threats were kept at bay. One afternoon, a delegation from the planet Virelia arrived unexpectedly. They had long been neutral in Iridian politics, but recent events suggested they might be swayed to oppose the Queen. Callan observed the diplomats closely during the meeting. Noting their gestures, speech patterns, and unspoken intentions, he asked questions that seemed simple but revealed deeper truths. The Virelians value respect and subtlety, Callan explained to Lyra afterward. They respond more to understanding than force. If we approach them correctly, they will support us willingly. Lyra nodded, impressed. And if we do not, then they may act against us, Callan replied calmly. But we will be prepared. Knowledge and preparation are stronger than fear or intimidation. The meeting with the Virelians turned out to be a test of patience and subtle negotiation. Under Callan's quiet guidance, Lyra presented her arguments with confidence and respect. She observed the Virelians' responses carefully, adapting her tone and strategy as Callan suggested. By the end of the discussion, the delegation pledged cautious support for Iridian Prime. The Queen realized that diplomacy, guided by intelligence and subtlety, could achieve more than aggression or force. Meanwhile, Callan continued to train the palace guards in new defensive strategies. He introduced techniques that were unfamiliar to the aliens, methods of observation, movement, and coordination that emphasized efficiency and safety. The guards quickly adapted, inspired by his example. What had once been a modest force was transforming into a highly capable defense unit, guided by a leader whose humility masked extraordinary ability. Even in quiet moments, Callan's influence was clear. He helped the staff organize their duties, improved communication channels, and even spent time teaching young nobles the value of patience, observation, and understanding. The palace staff began to see him not just as a diplomat or companion, but as a mentor and strategist. His humility made his leadership approachable, his wisdom made it respected, and his calm confidence made it effective. One evening, Lyra and Callan walked through the palace gardens, the air cool and fragrant with alien flowers. She had noticed how quickly the Queen's allies were beginning to trust and admire him, and how even subtle enemies seemed hesitant in his presence. "You have changed things here," Lyra said softly. "The palace feels stronger, not just in defense but in spirit. The people trust you." Callan's expression remained calm. "Strength comes in many forms, Your Majesty. Some of it is seen, some is hidden. Trust, unity, and preparation are as important as weapons or power. A kingdom that believes in its leaders is harder to defeat than one that relies solely on force." Lyra realized that this was exactly the type of leadership she had hoped for, though she had never imagined it would come from a human. The Queen understood now that strength was not measured by appearance or intimidation, but by intelligence, courage, and the ability to inspire others. As the moons rose over the palace, a subtle warning arrived from the scouts at the outskirts of the city. A new force was gathering, more organized and powerful than the previous intruders. Callan studied the reports carefully, noting the size, equipment, and movement patterns of the approaching threat. He shared his plan with Lyra. "We will not wait for them to attack blindly," he explained. "We will use intelligence, strategy, and alliances to ensure we are ready. The advantage lies with those who can anticipate and adapt." Lyra nodded, feeling a mix of pride and determination. "And you will lead the defense?" Callan's calm smile reassured her. "I will guide, Your Majesty. But the strength of this defense will come from unity, preparation, and the willingness to act wisely. Together, we will protect Iridian Prime." In the days that followed, Callan put his plan into action. He strengthened defenses, trained the guards, and coordinated with allied planets. He used subtle intelligence operations to understand the enemy's intentions, ensuring that any confrontation would be carefully controlled. Lyra observed him quietly, marveling at how he balanced humility with extraordinary capability. His presence inspired confidence and calm in everyone around him, transforming fear into focus. The Queen realized that she had underestimated humans, and that their greatest strength lay not in raw power but in intelligence, adaptability, and courage. The hidden legacy of Callan's training and experience was now visible to the palace and its allies. He had chosen to live humbly, to be seen as simple and unassuming, but in truth he was a strategist, a warrior, and a protector. His humility had allowed him to observe, learn, and influence without drawing attention, preparing both himself and the Queen for challenges that no one else could foresee. One night, after the palace had settled into quiet routine, Lyra approached Callan in the gardens. The twin moons reflected in her eyes, mirroring the calm determination she felt inside. "You are more than I ever imagined," she said softly. "I thought I had married a humble man, but you are extraordinary." Callan's expression remained gentle. "I am still the man you chose, Your Majesty. The extraordinary comes from choice, from training, and from the willingness to act when it matters. Humility is not weakness, it is wisdom, and wisdom can shape the course of history more than any weapon." Lyra nodded, feeling a deep sense of respect and love. She had married a human, yes, but not an ordinary one. She had married a man whose quiet strength, intelligence, and courage would protect her, inspire her people, and change the course of the galaxy. And as the twin moons shone over Iridian Prime, Lyra knew that the true test of this hidden legacy was still to come. The galaxy would soon witness not just a queen and her human companion, but a partnership capable of facing any challenge, overcoming any threat, and demonstrating the remarkable potential of humanity. For now, peace had returned to the palace, but it was a peace built on preparation, intelligence, and the quiet power of a humble human whose hidden legacy was finally beginning to shine. The morning sky over Iridian Prime was clear, but tension crackled in the air like static electricity. Scouts had reported a massive alien fleet approaching from beyond the edge of the system, a force larger and more advanced than any the planet had faced before. The Queen's Council buzzed with nervous energy, debating strategy and defensive options. Queen Lyra stood in the central command chamber, her golden eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the enemy fleet's movement. The air was thick with anxiety, yet at her side Callan remained calm as he always did. He observed the fleet's patterns, noting formations, probable strategies, and weak points with a precision that amazed even the Queen's most experienced advisors. "This fleet," Callan said softly, "is powerful but predictable in its approach. They rely on strength and intimidation. We must respond with intelligence, strategy, and unity. Force alone will not win this battle, it will only waste lives." Lyra turned to him, her admiration deepening. "Then what do we do? How can we face such numbers?" Callan smiled faintly. "We show them the true strength of humanity, not in power alone, but in courage, adaptability, and ingenuity. And we do so together, as a united force." The Queen nodded, inspired by his calm authority. She knew that she had married more than a humble man. She had married a strategist, a protector, and a hero. The first wave of enemy ships entered Iridian space. The fleet was vast, with sleek, dark ships bristling with energy weapons. The planet's defenses were ready, but the sheer numbers were overwhelming. Panic threatened to spread, yet Callan moved among the commanders quietly, offering guidance without command. His suggestions were subtle yet brilliant, redirecting smaller forces to outflank the enemy, positioning interceptors where they could maximize efficiency, and using the planet's natural defenses to their advantage. Lyra watched him in awe as he coordinated with alien allies and human defenders alike. His strategy was elegant, balancing offense and defense while minimizing risk to civilians. Where many would rely on sheer firepower, Callan relied on observation, ingenuity, and timing. As the battle began, the enemy launched a direct assault on the capital. Energy beams sliced through the skies and explosions rocked the city's outskirts. The Queen and her council moved to secure civilians, but Callan had already anticipated the attacks. Using a combination of alien technology and human tactics, he orchestrated countermeasures that diverted the enemy's assault away from the most populated areas. He led a small strike team personally, moving through the chaos with calm precision. Each step, each decision was deliberate. He disarmed traps, redirected enemy attacks, and neutralized high-threat targets without unnecessary force. Guards and pilots followed his lead instinctively, inspired by his courage and clarity. Lyra felt her heart swell with pride. The human she had married, the quiet man she had believed to be humble, was proving that humanity's greatest strength lay not in raw power, but in courage, adaptability, and the ability to think differently. Amid the chaos, Kalen spotted the enemy flagship, a massive vessel at the center of the formation. It was heavily armed and shielded, commanding the fleet with precision. He quickly formulated a plan, a coordinated strike using intelligence, timing, and the combined abilities of humans and aliens alike. "Your Majesty," he said to Lyra, "we can end this, but we must act with speed and precision. The enemy relies on intimidation and brute force. If we show them adaptability and unity, we can force a retreat." Lyra nodded, her confidence unshakable. "Then lead, Kalen. Show them what humanity can do." Kalen's team moved swiftly. Using cloaked ships, fast interceptors, and diversion tactics, they disrupted the enemy fleet's formation. Human engineers had devised clever ways to manipulate energy shields and disable key systems without causing massive destruction. Kalen's strategy relied not on overwhelming force, but on exploiting patterns, anticipating reactions, and acting decisively at the right moments. The flagship attempted a direct strike against Iridian's main defense station, but Kalen had predicted the maneuver. He guided the fleet into a trap, surrounding the flagship with interceptors that disrupted its communications and weapon systems. With careful precision, they neutralized the threat without unnecessary loss of life. The enemy fleet, seeing their leader's defeat and unable to adapt to the coordinated strategies of humans and aliens alike, began to retreat. Pilots and soldiers who had relied on intimidation and sheer numbers were forced to acknowledge a new reality. The human capacity for intelligence, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even the greatest odds. As the last enemy ships fled into the distance, Lyra and Kalen stood together on the observation deck, watching the skies clear. The city below had suffered minor damage, but casualties were minimal, thanks to the careful planning and quick thinking of the Queen's defenders. "Kalen," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with awe and emotion, "I have never seen anything like this. You humans, you are incredible." Kalen shook his head gently. "We are not invincible. We are adaptable, creative, and resilient. Humility allows us to observe, learn, and act when it matters most. That is our strength." The Queen took his hand, feeling a sense of partnership stronger than ever. "I thought I married a humble man," she said with a smile. "But I see now that you are a hero, a protector, and a strategist. You have shown me the true strength of humanity." Kalen smiled, though it was quiet and calm, reflecting the man she had come to love. "And you, Your Majesty, have shown me the power of trust, leadership, and unity. Together, we are stronger than any challenge the galaxy can throw at us." The aftermath of the battle brought both relief and respect. Allied planets praised Iridian Prime's leadership, amazed at how humans and aliens had worked together to overcome a seemingly impossible threat. News spread across the galaxy of the human who had quietly guided the defense, inspiring a newfound recognition of humanity's potential. Kalen continued his work, not seeking fame or recognition. He strengthened alliances, improved communication between planets, and prepared Iridian Prime for any future challenges. His humility remained, but now it was understood as part of his strength, a quiet power that inspired trust, loyalty, and courage in those around him. Lyra watched him with admiration, pride, and deep affection. She realized that the humble man she had married had been more than she could have imagined. His courage, intelligence, and ability to inspire others had saved her planet and changed the way the galaxy viewed humanity. In the weeks that followed, life on Iridian Prime returned to a serene rhythm. Citizens rebuilt minor damages, diplomats renewed alliances, and the palace resumed its daily routines. Yet the events of the battle left a lasting impression. The Queen and her human companion had demonstrated that true strength was not measured by size, technology, or raw power. It was measured by courage, intelligence, adaptability, and the quiet determination to act when it mattered most. One evening, Lyra and Kalen stood together on the palace balcony, overlooking the glowing city. The twin moons reflected in the canals below, casting a serene light over the capital. "You have shown me more than I ever imagined," Lyra said, her voice filled with warmth and gratitude, "not just your strength, but the strength of humanity itself." Kalen took her hand gently. "We are all capable of extraordinary things, Your Majesty. Humility allows us to see clearly, to act wisely and to inspire others. Together we can face any challenge. The queen smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. She had married more than a humble man. She had married a partner, a protector, and a hero. The galaxy had witnessed the quiet brilliance of humanity, and Iridian Prime stood stronger than ever. As the twin moons rose higher in the sky, the queen and her husband looked out at the stars, knowing that challenges would come again. But with trust, courage, and the quiet power of human ingenuity, they were ready. Humanity had proven its strength not through domination, but through intelligence, adaptability, and compassion. And Iridian Prime, under the leadership of Queen Lyra and the guidance of Callan, had become a symbol of hope and inspiration for the galaxy. The story of the humble human who revealed extraordinary strength would be remembered for generations, reminding all that true power often lies in the quietest hearts, waiting for the moment to shine. For the first time in centuries, the Queen of Iridian Prime felt completely confident. She had not only survived a massive threat, but she had also witnessed the remarkable potential of humanity, and she knew that together, they could face any challenge the universe could send their way. The stars stretched endlessly above, and in that infinite expanse, Lyra and Callan stood united, queen and husband, leader and strategist, human and alien, ready to face the future together. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, but that mistake would never be repeated. And in the quiet strength of a humble man, Lyra had found the greatest ally she could ever imagine.